It's probably worth giving a little bit of context about what notifiable events are and why we started this regime. We've had our regime running for 2 years now, and we started it as part of our targeted regulation programme. And the idea of our targeted regulation programme is that we have learnt over the years that most charities are trying very hard to get things right, or indeed getting things right. But there are always going to be problems. And what we'd like to do, and what we're trying to do with the notifiable events regime, is get upstream of these problems and make sure that we're in a good position alongside the charity to give the appropriate signposting, regulatory support, and so on, so that we can be there before the problem becomes even more serious. And so that is why we started the notifiable events regime up. And what we ask charities to do is to report to us significant events that are happening that are going to have a significant impact on their charity. And we would want them to do that in a timely fashion. It's very important to understand that I think the notifiable events regime is really all about good governance. It's a very positive thing to report to us. And it really is down to the trustees to be having the due diligence to sit down and look at problems and say, is this something that's really going to impact on our charity? So what we are asking charities to do is to look at problems that as they come up and say, what is the impact of this? How significant is this? Is this really something that's going to shake our charity? Do I need to report this to the regulator? There are a number of specific areas in which we ask for reporting. These include safeguarding, mistreatment of vulnerable beneficiaries, and that's a big important one for us, fraud and significant financial loss, and so on and so on. And you can find these very clearly outlined in our guidance on our website. And I think we can put that link up for you so you can have a look at that. But the interesting thing is, sometimes people say about our guidance, well, it's not quite prescriptive enough. It doesn't tell me exactly what to report. And that is because there's a very good reason for that. Each charity in Scotland is very different. We regulate 24,000 charities. Of those charities, over 50% have an income of less than £25,000. And they all do different things. And so it's very difficult for us to say this is significant for all charities, because it will be significant in different ways for different charities. And let me take a good example of financial loss, because that's probably the easiest way to think about it. If you are a £10,000 charity and you lose a grant for £5,000, then that is pretty significant for your charity. That might mean that you need to think about winding up. That certainly might mean that you're going to be on shaky ground if you've got creditors, stuff to pay, and so on, if you're in the middle of a programme, if you've got some beneficiaries you're supporting. So that will be significant. If you're a £3 million organisation and you lose a grant for £5,000, then of course you'll be disappointed. I've been in that position before in a larger charity, but it's not significant for your organisation, so you would not be reporting that to us. So it's where there's a real possible impact for your charity and something that might actually need some attention, either from the regulator or from yourselves, or and so on. So it's something that you as trustees are best placed to look at and say, yes, this is a significant event. So what we need trustees to do, and you may delegate some of this to your staff if you're lucky enough to have a staff team, but it is responsibility of the trustees, is to look at any given situation and say, what's happening? How significant is this? How are we going to deal with this? And at that situation, at that moment, if you've decided it is significant, then you should report it to us, and you should be telling us what you're actually going to do about it. So that's quite important, because this is about good governance. We don't need to know everything that's possibly going on in your charity, all the little problems and so on, because we know you will sort them out on a day-to-day basis. What we want is a problem that's been thought about, a solution that you've come up with, what you're going to change if there's some lessons to be learnt, and report to us at that stage. So that's quite important. I'll say a little bit more, however, about vulnerable beneficiaries, about children and vulnerable adults, and safeguarding concerns, because those are particularly sensitive at the moment, and actually particularly sensitive in terms of the right of beneficiaries to feel safe in your organisation. We would still expect trustees to have done some due diligence, to check out any allegations, to think about what they're going to do about it. But we would certainly err on the side of caution in terms of the timing of those reports. If you've got something going on that's about fraud or something else, you can probably take a little bit longer to do that due diligence, to do that investigation before you report to us. But with safeguarding concerns, erring on the side of caution is pretty good. Report as early as you possibly can, having done some due diligence, some investigation around that, so you can actually talk about what the trustees are thinking of doing. And we'll probably keep in good touch with you during that process as you are thinking about and working on the solutions to your particular problems. Sometimes people get a bit concerned that reporting a notifiable event to us will be a negative thing to do. And I really want to stress, I've probably said it twice already, but I'll say it again, it really is about good governance. And we in the regulator see it as a very positive thing. If, for instance, you have a significant event in your organisation and you don't notify us about it, and then subsequently maybe somebody raises a concern about it, and we find out, and we have to open an inquiry, and we find out that you didn't report it to us, that is in fact lots of times worse. If we are reported to at the right time, we can do something about it. So we would never see this as something negative. It's also a very safe space. This is not information that we share. This is information pre-inquiry. This is information that we are getting to be able to support the charities as they go through this process. So this is not information to be shared in any way, shape or form. The overall numbers will be shared publicly, and a little bit of a breakdown about the areas that are most significant, which actually the highest numbers tend to be around fraud and financial loss and so on. We'll be checking these trends as we go along. So we'll share these numbers, but we will not be sharing details. It's a safe space. It's not something that we'll be sharing. What happens when these reports come in is that we will make a decision about what needs to be done. So sometimes all we need to do is write a wee letter saying, thanks very much, you're doing everything you need to do, that's it pretty much closed. Or, thanks, that looks like you're doing the right stuff, could you give us a bit more information on that, and could you keep us updated on X, Y, and Z? Or, you maybe need to seek support from this organisation or that organisation, or in some cases you might need to seek legal support, and we would urge you to do that if that's necessary. So there's different things that we will do at that first stage. Very, very, very occasionally, and I have to say very, very, very occasionally, we will deem it important to open an inquiry. But again, we will do that with the charity. The charity will know that that's about to happen, and it puts you in a more powerful position rather than somebody else raising a concern and an inquiry being opened without you being aware at the very outset that that is happening. So that's a very rare occurrence. Generally what happens is you will report this to us. This is not public knowledge. It will not affect your funding. The only thing that will affect your funding is if eventually it does turn out that, you know, we open an inquiry and something heinous is going on and trustees haven't dealt with it properly. But to our mind, people who are reporting notifiable events to us are doing it under the banner of good governance. They're showing what they're doing. They're showing they're dealing with it properly. And that is what funders want to see. Funders want to see good governance. They want to see charities doing what they need to do. And they want to see that they can actually take sometimes quite difficult decisions to deal with quite difficult problems, because I think it's very important to see a charity is just an organisation, and organisations will always run into difficulties at some stage in their organisational life. They will always have a moment when they have to deal with serious problems, whether it be funding, whether it be safeguarding, whether it be somebody trying to use the organisation for nefarious means. These are all things that might happen for a charity. So it's not that we don't think these things will happen. We assume that for most charities, throughout their life cycle, will encounter some serious problems. The sign of a mature organisation that's well governed is that they know how to deal with these problems and that they learn from their mistakes. So it's very important that that happens, and no, it will not affect your funding, not by just reporting a notifiable event to us. The best place to get information on notifiable events is on the website. We have guidance that's pretty clear, quite simple. We may be looking to update that guidance, but that won't be happening for a few months now. You can go on our website and have a look at that. If you have any further questions, please get in touch with us at info, at our info email address. It's also important to say that if you want to report a notifiable event, we have a specific mailbox for that, and that's notifiable at oscar.org.uk. So you can go there directly to report to us, and the guidance gives you some sense of what it is you have to include in that report so that we can start on a good footing in terms of that reporting. Finally, I just want to say something about, we've been talking here about notifiable events, but a lot of the stuff that goes around that, about governance, about all sorts of things, we have great information on the website. And sometimes that question that you need answering, you will find directly there. And if not, we'll be signposting you to somewhere else that can give you that information. So please do use that resource. It's getting better and better and more accessible, and it should really help you out. But aside from that, we have other channels to keep in touch with us. If you're a Twitter fan, please follow us there. If you're on Facebook, we have a presence there. And also sign up to our OSCR newsletter, the OSCR Reporter, which is a great source of the more immediate stuff that's coming up for us. We'll every couple of months we publish something, and that shows where we're publishing new stuff. There's things that charities need to be thinking about, and so on and so on. So please do follow us, and hopefully you'll find what you need in our charity. But if you don't, please don't hesitate to get in touch.